In recent times, Cancer Wellness Support has recognised the incredible role that carers play. They are as important to the wellness of the client as the client is for their own wellness. We know that with a cancer story, people can be totally isolated and they need that person around them who shifts from caring about them to caring for them, and that's how we can identify a carer. Carers are largely invisible. They really are a group of people who are hidden unemployed. Many of them need to give up work, and whether that's full-time or part-time, they become isolated within that journey of caring for the other person. Their friends tend to say, well, look, we know you're really, really busy. We won't ask you to do a film because we knew that you couldn't make it. People begin to make decisions, all from a loving position and well-intentioned. But the carer loses the right to actually speak for themselves. You know, they'll open the door when somebody comes to visit and the person just says, oh, how is Mary, the person that you're looking for. They just want somebody to ask them first, how are you going? They really find it difficult because they are living their lives not just for themselves or not just in the way that you care and love for another family member. You're actually operating as the frontal lobe for the person who has the diagnosis. Whether they're frail in that diagnosis, whether they're traumatised by the diagnosis or in that first initial shock phase, that energy the carer gives totally to the person that they're about to start caring for. They actually forget to give it to themselves, and they often say, but I'm only whinging if I say, I'm not as bad as that person. And so they shift from being, husband or daughter or wife. They shift from that normal role that they play and they move across into a role of carer and caree, and that actually does shape the relationship differently. And they don't realise it, and they talk about, I've had a couple who, had been married for many years and never had problems with communication. The husband would say to the wife who had the diagnosis, how are you? How do you feel? I feel fine, I'm great. But do you really? We tend to lose that trust of the other person's ability to actually say, I am okay, it's all right. You need to actually let me be. So relationships change in that time. We know that there's an enormous amount of income lost from a family in the first year of diagnosis, as high as $47,000. So it's real income that's lost from that family. We then have to look at the other layer of if it's a young person in adolescence who becomes the carer for their parent. That's at a stage when adolescents are meant to be out there, being part of the community, developing with their peer groups. They're at the time when their school is really important to them, coming up to year 11 and 12, for example, and they shift into a caring role. This actually shapes them, and we know research has shown it shapes their future results in high school. They have high hopes of actually going to university, for example, and the research has shown by, about 2 years, 3 years, 5 years later, none of those things have actually happened for them because it's almost at times skipped childhood and skipped adolescence. Carers need to be more identified. There needs to be more funding to carers, and we pick up on that role for them, not only in the active phase when they're caring for the person who's going through the treatment right through to having the all clear, but also when if the person actually dies, then the carer is forgotten. There's pseudo relationships for them with the professional workers. The people who were coming to the house stop coming. The carer believed that they had a relationship with them, but it's actually the banner of under the banner of the professional role. So carers then are not only isolated, but they are actually exhausted, and it can take up to 5 years and sometimes longer for a carer actually to recover from that one role that they picked up, not one that they necessarily applied for, it just evolved. So carers are an important part of the Cancer Wellness Support.